Hello and welcome to Needed Conversations. I'm your host, Julie Sawaya. I'm the co-founder of Needed.
Hey Julie, Lori and Phabby need to talk. Let's get them on the show.
Today we have two awesome guests with us, two of our Needed changemakers, and I'll let you both introduce yourselves.
Okay.
Maybe starting with you, Phabby.
My name is Phabillia, and I'm an OBGYN.
You are more than just an OBGYN.
Yes. Okay. Well, yes. I guess
she's a unicorn.
Okay.
She's a unicorn OBGYN.
She's like the most special OBGYN that I've had the privilege of working with.
Well, I love that, Lori.
Yeah.
You know I love you. So, no, thank you.
Well, we'll unpack that a little bit more.
Thank you.
Throughout this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm Lori Bregman. I'm a doula of 26 years and the author of The Mindful Mom to Be, Mama Stay, and the Doula Deck, and the doula, the Needed. What am I? The doula in residence for Needed.
You are, in fact, our doula in residence.
Yes.
We're so lucky to work with both of you, and I'm really excited for folks to get to know you guys a little bit better today. So why don't we start with each of you, what brought you to this work, and then I would also love to hear how your paths crossed with one another.
Okay. Well, for me, I wanted to be an obstetrician and gynecologist since I was 8 years old. And I love saying this because it's truly a calling and not just a job. And with that, I went to residency in New York and I stayed there for about 13 years training residents in the academic center place. And the OB that trained me was from the Royal Academy of Obstetrics, and he had a full-on midwifery service. And so I was taught by midwives how to give birth. We were one of the very few hospitals that had basically water birth. So to me, midwifery was natural, was something always present. So I moved to California after Hurricane Sandy. I said, I'm not going to stay in New York, like hurricanes every season. So I'm moving to the sunny California area. When I came here, although I thought that, California is very progressive and open to new concepts, the midwives were not received in the way that I knew midwives. I didn't know that they were not very well welcome. So I embarked into a new adventure. I've always wanted to have a mobile concierge service. I wanted to bring back the house doctor. And so I started Fabulous Care in 2013. So, and that is what led me to now doing both home births and hospital birth.
Yeah. I have been one of your lucky patients who's gotten to work with you through a kind of shared care model of midwifery and obstetrics, and that really is one of the things that makes you such a unicorn, is that it's incredibly rare to have access to both, especially if you're a woman who chooses to birth at home. Oftentimes you are set apart from the medical system. You don't have access to an OB. And, a lot of the really positive outcomes that we see in other countries are through this shared collaborative care. So what you do is amazing. And how did you meet this one?
Well, I'm trying to think because I've known her so long, so I'm trying to remember, how did we meet?
We met through, I remember that I've heard so much about you. And I was like, I need to meet this lady, because she's like I can tell she's like my soulmate. And it was through a birth, remember, with Alex and.
Oh, that's right. So, yes. Alex, yes.
And I walked in and it was just like this instant, love fest. I read energy. So I was just like, oh, this one's special. Yeah. And right away we just clicked, and then we've been just doing births nonstop ever since together.
And you guys are doing both hospital and at-home births together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is probably quite a contrast.
It is quite a contrast, but however, because it's the team, we know each other. I know how we can support the mom and the family. And I don't just say mother, because I think we support the family in all honesty. And it's a joy to work with her.
Yeah.
Because I can't do what she does. I know how to do me really well and do my job really well. And I trust her to do her job really well.
Yeah.
And so that's what collaboration looks like. It's like trusting each other.
Yeah.
And so I love doing births with her.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't just do the birth together. Like usually, like we just had a couple of people sign up with us right now. They're 6 weeks pregnant. And we start from the beginning of, and really getting to know these people on such a deep level. Like I'm mind, body, spirit support.
Mm-hmm.
She's, does the OB, but she's so much more. And we'll like literally talk. We'll call each other like every day. And she'll be like, okay, I just saw so-and-so. And I'll be like, oh, I talked to her the other day. This is coming up for her.
Mm-hmm.
And we work together like where I can talk about the emotional stuff and she'll be like, oh, okay, thanks for sharing that. And she'll be telling me what's going on with this. And then we just work as a team. And it's like such a, like, it's so well like rounded, there's no gaps or holes in the way we work.
Yeah.
It's a true centered care. That's what it is. It's like holistic care,
Yeah.
like whole, like in totality.
And that's such a contrast from the typical birthing system in the US where, most women, you mentioned a patient who's 6 weeks pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes women aren't even seen by their care provider until 12 weeks or even 14 weeks. And there isn't that. And I found through my own pregnancies that oftentimes in the beginning, that's when you need the most support because you're not telling people about your pregnancy
and you're
yet.
scared.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of fear because if you've had past miscarriages or you've heard stories. Yeah. So it's nice to get that support early. And the earlier we start with people, the deeper relationships we can build because the way you do life is the way you do birth. Mm-hmm. And so we know our people so well and we build these relationships so they trust us and we trust. The beautiful thing about Fabs and I is like we trust your ability to give birth. Mm-hmm. We trust the process of birth and we trust your baby. So we know that if we leave things alone, and the physiological unfolding of birth, it just works better.
Yeah,
right.
So. Lori, what brought you to doula work originally?
I feel like I came into the world. The way I was born, the way my mom's pregnancy with me, and how it shaped me led me to go do the work that I do. My dad always said, Steve Jobs quote, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, not forwards. And he watched my whole evolution and he was like, everything led you here. So I always was drawn to working with pregnant women, fertility, babies, all of it. And I've just studied. I went through this like years of studying. So I used to do massage therapy, energy healing. I studied nutrition, like life coaching, all the things I learned. I was like, how can I gear this towards pregnant women? And I was like, is it because of I want to be a mom? It's like, what's this reason? And at the same time, I was doing all this deep healing work on myself. And I was still like taking yoga classes and my doula training and like yoga training. And again, prenatal, how can I gear this towards pregnancy? And I got hypnotized by my friend, who's a dear friend of mine now, but at the time she was my teacher. I got hypnotized because I was running this certain program. And I was living my life from it. And we went back and hypnotized when it first started. And I went into the womb.
Wow.
And I had such a panic attack. My mom, that they took me out of the session and said, talk to your mom. I knew nothing about my birth, nothing about her pregnancy with me. And she broke down and started crying. And basically, she did things to kind of get, not have the baby, have me, was going to put me up for adoption, everything I felt in the womb.
Oh, wow.
And then her birth, it was back in the late 60s with me, put to sleep, not allowed anybody in the room. I was in an incubator, all these different things. And then she had horrible postpartum depression. And all of it shaped me. And so it led me to really be so passionate about this work. And that's why I don't just do the birth. It's all about like supporting these women and families through pregnancy and making sure they feel supported, their mind, body, and spirit. Because I think had my mom probably had that, we would have had a different outcome.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So I feel like I always say that I was born imperfectly perfect, because had I not come into the world that way, I would not be so incredibly passionate about the way I work and what I do.
Yeah. We find that through a lot of the practitioners that we work with at Needed is oftentimes the initial spark for them will be an aspect of the care system that they felt under-supported by. There's so many ways in which, and that's one of the reasons that we're so excited to have these conversations, is that there's so many ways in which modern women and mothers are under-supported today, and Needed tends to focus primarily on serving women nutritionally, but there are so many facets in which it goes beyond nutrition, the ways that women are underserved by our medical system, by their care providers, and why we brought together this group of practitioners like both of you is really to shine a light on what's possible when women have access to that complementary care and a set of care providers who help women advocate for themselves and help them mind, body, and spirit, as you said, through this journey of becoming and being a mother.
Yeah.
There's just so much there to unpack.
There's so much. They're going through. You know this. You go through this incredible transformation.
Yeah.
It's like I always say that the beginning, when they're pre-pregnancy, you're like a caterpillar, and pregnancy, you're in the cocoon, you're shedding out off the old, you're growing these new parts of yourself, and then you bust out with your wings and you kind of let yourself dry in the postpartum area, and learn how to fly.
Yeah.
It's such a metamorphosis. And through that, so much stuff comes up.
Yeah.
And if they don't have that, people like focus on the food and the diet and all that stuff, but there's so many other components that go on through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like one of the things I always help people in this process is because I drive towards my experience of having my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being a full-on OBGYN, working, doing, and just had no idea of what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I felt I was prepared for the labor. And not even, I would say, really, really prepared. Like I was knowledgeable of the labor. And when labor did not occur in the way I was induced, and I remember, I tell people all the time, I got an epidural at 1 centimeter, and they were like, what are you talking about? How do you get it at 1 centimeter? Well, I was induced for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I was on Cervidil and I was on Pitocin for 12 hours, and I was still 1 centimeter. And they kept coming into my room every 5 minutes asking me if I wanted an epidural because I was contracting so much. And finally, when my doctor was like, oh, you've been at this for 36 hours, you're still 1 centimeter. And I said, okay, let me try the epidural. I took the epidural. She was able to break my water, and I went into labor. And it made me think, I was like, how is it that she couldn't even reach? It was my mind body was not connected. Mm-hmm. And this is where, as calm as I was, my body was not relaxed. And I always say to people, your body never lies. Yep. It carries emotions, it carries thoughts, it carries a lot of things. So when you are going through the process of birth, you're not just birthing a baby, you're birthing yourself, yep. You're birthing your family, you're birthing a new you. And just to piggyback on what she's saying, a metamorphosis. You're going through a change. And a lot of times the body carries memories and thoughts, and the soul carries all the hurt. Mm-hmm. The soul carries all those things. And in order for your soul and your mind and your body to come into one, it has to relax.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful process, but how do I get to that soul? I need to know that person. I need to get into relationship. Yeah. This is where the key is. And in most obstetricians, you're 15 minutes with a visit.
10.
Where do you get the relationship? There's no relationship.
Yeah.
It's in and out. Yeah. There's no time to get to know the person.
And they walk in when the baby's eyebrows are coming out. But it's not really. It's really the healthcare.
Yeah.
Because it's not the doctor's fault.
It's the system.
The system is really broken.
Yeah.
It's like I because I'm in both ends, I can empathize in both sides, mm-hmm. And see really the issue there. And one of the things that I say is if you go down, I always say follow the money. It's just really follow the money when the cost of healthcare, it's not beneficial for a doctor to actually go to a delivery.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That's not where
it's not where the money is. The money is in the clinic.
I make more as a doula than a doctor who's taking insurance makes through the 9 months of pregnancy and the delivery.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. And I think that's contributing to doctors, well-meaning doctors, but needing to take such a patient volume to keep their practice running.
It's so
and that's what
up.
leads to the I guess the underwhelming patient experience of feeling like, I remember I started out my first pregnancy seeing an OB. I come from a family of medical doctors, so that's what I knew, and I wasn't yet fully aware of how different an out of hospital birth could be, or a birth with a midwife could be. So I started on a path working with an OB. I didn't yet know you. And my experience was very I guess transactional is probably the best way to describe it, where I felt like I was connecting with the doctor, but then on the next visit, it was as if none of the information was remembered, or at least the personal aspects weren't remembered. And there's a lot to cover in those appointments too. There's ultrasounds to do. There's, measuring baby's growth and checking in on your vitals as a mom. There's not a lot of time to focus on the emotional aspects, like how are you actually doing? And my first pregnancy coincided with COVID, and I am, in retrospect, as you said, you can understand the path kind of in retrospect. I'm so grateful that it did coincide with that time period, because that's what for me led me to pursue a different way of giving birth, and ultimately ended up having a home birth with a midwife, and had 2 more babies that way as well. But that first experience, I think, was pretty eye-opening for me to be able to see just how different it is to the kind of care that you both provide to your clients.
I think home birth is so misunderstood. I really do. And I think from a young age, we've been taught, it's time for, you have a baby, you go to the hospital, and you're sick, you go to a doctor. And if you really start diving in and do an interview with a midwife or Phabby, you start to understand that it's a completely safe, it's safe. It's safe if I don't work with reckless.
It's true. It's
people.
Birth is natural. Mm-hmm. Pregnancy is normal. We need to normalize it again, as opposed to looking at it as a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. We're waiting for something bad. We're looking for the bad. We're looking for the problem. We're looking for the issue. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to, it's kind of like looking at this glass half empty or half full. It's the same, but it's the perception, right? So if I'm a doctor that sees only bad, I'm going to see the problem. Yeah. And if I am the doctor or a provider that only sees good, I will only see good. So to me, midwifery is physiology of birth. Mm-hmm. They trust on the good. They trust on the fact that you were designed for this, you were meant for this, and you will give birth. Mm-hmm. Obstetrics is when it deviates from the physiology. So they're both needed. Right? They're both needed. So why can't we just look at birth in that way? Yeah. Apply. And that's what I say to people is that I love midwives were there before obstetricians were there. Yeah. So you actually essentially are practicing midwifery care when you do not intervene, when you let a pregnancy go.
And I'm sure you've seen, both of you in your practices, that it isn't for everyone. Mm-hmm. Home birth isn't for everyone. And I think ultimately, where a woman feels safest is where she should give birth, so that natural physiological response can happen. But for many, it can be a really positive choice. And it's not to say it's not hard. It is, but it's, I think you said it really well, Lori, how you give birth is how you do life, and vice versa. That it can be, for me, it has been the most positive probably moments of my life is not necessarily in labor, but after, that sense of I can do hard things. We've made that a family motto. We're trying to teach our kids that too, that like, hey, we're a family that can do hard things. And it's applicable even to like the little things, getting the kids out the door in the morning, or they're, whining over something. It's something that I come back to, and that I see my kids kind of now appreciating more, is like, we don't have to, I guess, avoid the hard things in life.
Yeah.
Your new t-shirt.
I know.
You can do hard things.
Yeah.
She wears faith over fear for girls. And then boys, she comes with a Tupac shirt.
Okay, so you have different attire depending on the sex.
Yes, and the reason I do this is because, it's interesting when we, it's true, home birth is not for everybody, but birth is going to happen, right? And so what I tend to say to people is that, in life, as a person, as a human being, you will grow and you will elevate and you will mature. That maturity comes with lessons and trials and tribulations. Whether you choose to learn that lesson at a certain point, that lesson will come again. So I often say to people, in labor, in pregnancy, there's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Because you will be the first teacher to your child. You cannot teach something that you're not walking into. And we're never looking for perfection. Perfectionism is a lie. Yeah. We are looking for things that we are walking into. We are teaching our children how to be human beings.
Yeah.
And human beings are not perfect at all.
Yeah.
And so in birth, when things come up, instead of running away from it, you run towards it.
Even when taking a daily prenatal vitamin, 95% of women are left nutritionally depleted. We need a higher standard. Needed delivers up to 16 times more of the essential nutrients for women and their babies during pregnancy, and supports higher blood nutrient levels than a standard prenatal vitamin. Every mother deserves to thrive. This is Needed.
You parents, we are becoming the first teachers to our kids, and we have to mature. And the way we mature through these processes is through going through trials. So whether we choose to learn the lesson now, it's going to be presented later. And so birth is, pregnancy is an opportunity for things to come up. A lot of times things from our past, from our childhood will surface up. We're so vulnerable and exposed. When these things come, embrace them, because that's the opportunity to go through them and move forward, so that when the life lessons come up with the children, then you can teach them. We're not born to be perfect. Yeah. We're born to become to be human beings, and that's what I often tell my clients is that's what you are. And perfectionism is an illusion. It's not real.
Yeah,
I think that's what happened when I was pregnant. I went boop boop boop. I'm good. I pushed the baby out. Pop pop pop. Postpartum was hell week.
Yeah,
because I went through a process of where I couldn't feed. I was waiting for the music that everybody's talking about where I'm going to connect with my daughter. I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I learned that, it's okay to not be perfect, to not be, what am I teaching my daughter? I'm teaching my daughter that I'm a human being and I make mistakes. I fell in love with my daughter.
Yeah.
That's a different thing that nobody says.
Yeah.
That
it's not necessarily instant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I knew that I had to feed her, change her diaper, but there was no connection.
I think I think the big thing is it's you can't compare yourself to anybody else's journey because it's such an individual process.
Yeah.
And what you were saying too, Fabs, is I always tell people, and I taught my class last night, but I brought this up where it's like, if you really pay attention, what comes up while you're trying to conceive during your pregnancy, birth is preparing you for your role as a mom.
Yep.
It's just whether it's I've got to learn patience. I've got to learn how to trust.
Yeah.
I've got to, perfectionism's coming up.
Yeah.
I need to like control. Where can
I was going to say control for
Control
me
is
a big
big.
one.
A big one.
And for a lot of women, I think, because, many of us are those of us who are, prioritizing kind of careers, or we, pride ourselves on accomplishments, things that we've done in our lives. Like, it's a big change to then go to this place of, I can't control this, whether it's the timing of when you conceive or the health of a pregnancy. Many women, I've experienced a pregnancy loss on my journey as well. Like, there's an utter, I think the maybe one of the confronting things about motherhood is how utterly not in control you are. And you can either fight that and struggle, or come to accept it. And I wouldn't say it's just like you decide, okay, I accept that I'm not in control. It's a scary thing because you love this baby so much and you care so much and the stakes are so high. But I think for me, that's what the lead up to my first birth and what all of my subsequent births have taught me is that surrendering of control.
Yeah.
And even after doing it a few times, this most recent one, like Phabby, you were there with me in that 41st week of my last pregnancy this past fall. And I had to relearn that lesson again. You were there. And I think that's one of the things that's so amazing about this model of care that you both espouse and provide to your clients is it's not like trust without verification. You're there doing a biophysical profile. I'm getting all of the same type of reassurance I could get in a hospital setting, but I'm at home.
Right.
And you were able to come to me and do the ultrasound at home and be like, girl, he's fine. The baby is good. Like, he's just not ready to come yet. And and it's okay. Like, he's gonna come this week. No one knows when. And it's that trust that for me, I think is what allows me to ultimately get to the place of surrender is I have that family background of the medical model and I'm not someone who can just blindly be like, I trust in nature. I want to trust, but I'm a person who needs that verification, who wants to know the science, who wants to know the facts. And I think that's maybe a misconception people don't understand about working with a doula or working with, an integrative OB is that you can have both. You can embrace the trust and the spirituality and maybe the softer side of birth.
Yes.
But ultimately, I think what a doula and what you provide in your model of care, which is much more similar to a midwife than to a traditional OB, is that there's also a real grounding in evidence. It's maybe just a type of evidence that the medical system isn't focused on.
I think too, if we don't trust you, how are you going to trust yourself?
Right.
And that's what I see a lot in the medical, sadly, what I'm seeing a lot is, not all the time, but often, is they're like, we should induce you because we just induced at 39 weeks because that's what we do, because we don't trust that you're going to be able to like birth your baby because it's going to be too big or this or that. And like your gut might be saying, I think I'm going to be able to do this. Like, and so when a woman's intuition always speaks, they're like, I really feel this strongly. I always encourage them to follow it. Yeah. Because again, if we like Phabby and I trust our clients, we trust birth, we trust the process, we trust each other, we trust the whole thing is built on trust. And these people can feel that trust and then they trust themselves too. Yeah. And then it helps them on the other side because they're like, I actually trust myself to make these choices, to do these things.
Because you have a pediatrician on the other side, but there's no manual for motherhood. There's no like every single step along the way. There's so many things that can happen post-birth that you do have to learn to, I think, cultivate a sense of, I know my baby best. I know my body well.
I think that is the key right there is, for some reason, because of the lack of trust that we have in the medical system, it just went down. So now we're not elevated the instinct of the mother. Mm-hmm. We're actually removing it because we're essentially telling her, you can't do this, you can't do this, you don't know. And then here you go, have the baby. Good luck. Yeah. Bye.
I'll see you in 6 weeks.
It's see you in 6 weeks. That's terrible, because if anything, this is the reason why we're the faith over fear for my girls.
Yeah.
Because that is the struggle for the rest of your life, is we control when we're in fear. We control. We do not control, and we surrender when we're in faith, when we trust. Faith requires trust.
Yeah.
And in order for me to highlight that trust inside of you, for you to regain that trust inside of you, I have to trust in the process. I have to trust in the team. Yeah. I have to trust in myself. There's all trust around there.
Yeah.
But I also believe that the provider may not trust also. They're in fear themselves.
Right.
And so this is why the system is a big issue. I also can say, you know what? I don't know what's going on.
Right.
You know, I'm comfortable enough to say, I don't know. I don't know. But I trust that this is not.
And I think that's one of the reasons that you're such a unicorn. It's so, there is I think a vulnerability required doctor to say, I don't know.
Yes.
And to, you know, I want to double click a little bit on that trust that you have in Lori or in doulas, because I don't know that that's always the case. Yeah, I want to dive in a little bit more around why, like what you see as an OB in terms of the
doula
perception, with a doula. And then I want to hear from you, Lori, about your experience, because you don't always have the pleasure, or haven't throughout your career had the pleasure of working with doctors like Phabby.
I want to start by saying what happened, because a labor and delivery nurse is very unique. Most other countries, a labor and delivery nurse has to be a midwife in order to be an L&D
like a certified nurse midwife.
Correct. Yeah. They have to have midwifery. Okay. In L&D, the job of a nurse was first and foremost the advocate of the patient. So essentially, they spend the most of their time with the patient. So they were actually doing what the doula was doing. In comes EMR, electronic, central monitoring, paperwork, all this. That first passion of the nurse that went into L&D to basically do what the doula is doing now, it's taken away. So when you look at a doula and an L&D nurse, it's a beef. That's unspoken for, because essentially the passion I had, what you're doing. I wanted to do that. I wanted to care for the mom in that way. But now I can't do it because I have all this paperwork to do and all this charting to do. So essentially the doula came in once we start centralizing and medicalizing labor. Yeah. And so the doula comes in now. Somebody needs to advocate for the patient. Somebody needs to make sure that the patient is well cared for, nurtured, and supported. That's where the doula comes in.
And research shows that birth outcomes are improved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I had an L&D nurse once that said to me, I don't understand why this doula, we were doing fine. And this doula comes in and all of a sudden now she doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to do that. Kept complaining. And I said to her, here's a thought. Why don't you ask the doula to come out, ask her, how can I help you? Now that would change, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all there to support the client, the mom. We all have the same interests. Yeah. So the doula in itself is part of the team. I never look at a doula as not part of the team. If the medical system starts embracing the doula as opposed to pushing her out of the way, you will see so much more. You will see when I walk into labor and delivery and I have a doula, I bring the doula. Hey, how are you? Oh, thank you for supporting. Thank you for doing this. Yeah. You'll see that once they're seen and brought into as a team, let's work together. What can I do? That is different. Yeah. As opposed to looking at it, oh, you're going to be a problem. You're going to this. No.
I think the most interesting things about doula as advocate is that the doula at least in the case of a doula like Lori, knows the patient for
absolutely
40 weeks, sometimes before. Lori, I know sometimes patients or clients will book you before they're even pregnant. You work with them preconception. So that longevity of care is not something you can replicate in a labor and delivery floor. Oftentimes the OB isn't there throughout the labor and delivery. They come in at the end for pushing. I know you practice differently, but it seems that having someone on the patient's side who knows the patient well, who has worked with the patient around their birth preferences, the birth plan may need to deviate, but knowing the patient's preferences and being able to help them to advocate and helping their partner, if they have a partner, to help advocate for them. It seems like so much common sense that
Correct.
would be something so well embraced. But as you've described it, it's sort of the setup. Like, what is the setup? What is the almost like the culture in the room,
right,
where things can go wrong?
I think first of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a midwife.
Yep.
And I'm not a nurse. Like, I don't take blood pressure and I don't check the baby's heart. I don't take temperatures and all that stuff. So there is room for all of us to work in collaboration if we can all just stay in our lane and play our parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And trust.
And trust.
And trust.
And also, it's something that I'm a team player. I try to bring the nurses in and all this stuff. However, they don't know my clients. So it's like you said, a lot of these people will even book me before they're even pregnant. And I know them so well. I know their trauma. I know their emotions. I know their relationship. I know how they operate. I know how they do life. I know their fears. I know them so well. And these nurses, it's not, I try to let them in on some stuff that might be helpful, but they have to remember that there's a deep relationship already built. And I try to bring them in. And some nurses are just like, oh, this doula is a pain in the ass, and I'll advocate for my clients, but I really teach them how to ask informed questions so they can make really informed choices. So they can advocate for themselves. But there's times where they can't. If they're in the middle of a contraction and something's going on and they're wanting to do something, I'm like, can you just wait until this is, let her get through this,
And I think one of the things, that should be said is like we were saying earlier around the medical system and how it's influencing the way doctors practice. I think the same is true for nurses. They are seeing such a high patient volume. They're seeing multiple women per shift.
They're
coming in and out of shifts. Yeah.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault. And they go into it, as you said, with pure intentions. My mom was a postpartum nurse earlier in her career, and she went in, she loved it. She loved taking care of the women. She loved babies. Like, the intentions, I think, are really positive. It's that, it's the system that doesn't always allow people to show up as their best
to follow
selves.
Things and
protocols, the hospital policies. I often say this is like the medical system, and I'm talking about my fellow doctors, my nurses, they're in an abusive relationship and they don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think in COVID, the medical system was so abused. I mean, I watch a lot of nurses working and having multiple patients and tired. When you go into the medicine, you go with a passion, with a hope. I want to really care. So my doctors and my nurses, they really care. They really are there waking up in the morning saying, I'm going to care for them. Yeah. So then what happens is, unfortunately, they're enslaved. They are some doctors that I'll never forget in New York. I had to see 40 patients a day just to make the quota.
Wow.
40 patients. That's abusive. That's a lot of work. And so oftentimes they can't be there in the delivery, which I'm sure it's like icing on the cake to deliver the baby, right? So, it's like the cherry on top. Some of them get really upset that they missed the delivery. And why? Because unfortunately they had to see 20 patients in the office just so they could pay the bill to the light bulb or the rent.
And the induction is very it's very convenient for them because then they can control it.
And for the birthing, for many birthing women, I mean, it's something that, back to the point of control, it's like you don't know how your birth is going to go, but knowing that your doctor who you've seen
is going to be there.
Is a huge appeal.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is very much. It's not like it's kind of like, I don't want to say like people are bad or this. No, I think we're caught up in a system that we don't know how to get out. And part of it is like, I know some doctors are like, I wish I could do this. I wish I could. But they don't know how.
And they also would realize that if they worked with doulas, we actually make their life. So I've gotten to this point in my career where I will only work with like certain doctors that I work in a collaborative model of care with. Obviously, this one, Phabby, is a whole other level. But there's a respect that we have for each other. I know the way they work. They know the way I am. And a lot of them say, you make my life so much easier, because these people, I get 3/4 the amount of less phone calls.
They'll call you.
They'll call me. They'll text me. They are happy. They're not as scared. They're in a good emotional state. They ask really informed questions. They're very clear on what their intentions are. If I am birthing in the hospital, I walk into the hospital when they're like 6 centimeters.
This is the doctor who will walk in at that point, you're saying?
No, I will.
Oh, you will, because you'll labor at home.
Yeah, and then they're like, I don't have to worry about them because I know you're there. And I'm texting the doctors going, the nurse wants to do this. And they're like, what? It's like, and so we really can. And then we're also seen as like, what is it called? Disturbers?
Yeah, trouble. Oh God, I forgot what it's called. Disruptors.
Because a woman who's very educated, or a couple that's really educated, you can't, it's hard to like put your agenda on them.
Yeah.
So doctors get pissed at us because they're like, oh, don't work with the doula, because an uneducated person is a lot more manipulative,
Yeah.
I wish there were a lot more doctors that would witness home birth, because I think a lot of people have a lot of criticism of home birth, but they've never been in a home birth. How do you know? They have this idea that a home birth is in the bush.
Yeah.
Do you know? They have no idea that that's actually one-on-one care.
I feel like every doctor should watch one, because it will bring them back
to the love.
Yeah.
To like what women are capable of.
Yeah.
When I chose to deviate from my care plan with my first pregnancy, my dad and even my sister, who is a younger, trained doctor, didn't know the difference between a doula and a midwife.
Yeah.
They didn't know. And they didn't know that a midwife is a trained medical professional. Yeah. And I still get that question a lot from people when they hear that I had home births is, well, what do you do in the event of an emergency? And I don't think most people don't know that midwives are trained to deal with emergent circumstances. Of course, there are reasons to transfer, but the transfer rate tends to be very low because, one, women tend to be low risk, going into midwifery care. And midwives work really closely with women to make sure that they stay low risk. And so do doulas, certain doulas that work with women throughout pregnancy.
They're NRP certified, whereas OBGYNs are not.
Yeah.
By the way,
they're not.
I've watched midwives at home perform like beautiful, like resuscitations and beautiful things with bleeding where they handle it with such care and like consciousness and just like calmness, where a lot of times they'll do it on the mom. They'll like hold the baby
while the mom is holding the baby. Yeah.
And I watch. It's like I'll have sliding door moments where I'll just watch one exact same scenario, and then I'll be at the hospital and they're like, cut the cord, take the baby.
Yeah.
Shove things down the baby's throat, like take the baby up to the NICU, separate the baby, and it's just kind of like it's hard.
Yeah.
Because you're just like it's almost like I've watched this so many times where one scenario played out at a home birth.
Yeah.
Same scenario played out in the hospital 2 days later, and it was like
very
sliding doors moment.
Yeah, I just to highlight on the resuscitative mode, right? All the L&D nurses, everybody in the hospital knows in terms of NRP what transition the baby goes through. Goes from oxygenated blood coming from the umbilical to lungs, scream, expand, all that. Yet in the hospital, we need to cut the cord, get to respiratory right away. Whereas in the home birth, no, they actually use a physiology where it says like, don't cut the cord. There's still oxygenated blood going
keep
through.
The baby on,
keep the baby on the mom where the warmth is still
helps.
there.
Yeah.
So
where the baby's going to thrive when they return to the natural habitat.
Yeah. And they actually wait for the transition as opposed to let's rub and remove blah, 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 and where you have
these babies being shocked to life.
They're shocked into life, which it's very interesting to see that because part of it is like, is it really, or is it also room change?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have this much time to recover and then to transfer to postpartum do you understand?
Right. Yeah.
It's not like they're all NRP. They all know. Yeah. Everybody knows the NRP. So why are we doing that?
Yeah.
I also feel I took a birth psychology program and it was like, it made sense of everything I went through when I was, you know, in the womb and everything and my birth. But it also brought so much awareness and consciousness to the way these babies come into the world, that they are feeling beings in the womb, that, you know, if the mom is not taken care of, you know, thriving, it's a direct extension. And it's something that like, I wish every nurse practitioner, doctor would take this program because it would change the way, it would bring so much more awareness and consciousness into the way these babies, it's the first impression they have of the world.
Yeah.
And just coming in and teach, even like doctors, just treating women with respect. And
well, that's a really good segue into a topic that I want us to address, which is the state of maternal health in this country, and specifically for women of color.
We have so much work to do.
We do. And, you know, I think it's actually shocking how poor the health outcomes are for women and for babies in this country, given we are the wealthiest country or one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And we have the worst birth outcomes of developed countries. And I want to speak, obviously there's many factors at play. There's nutrition, there's, you know, kind of comorbidities that can play a role. But the part that I want to highlight here is the role that you think practitioner-patient relationships can influence.
Well, I'll go back again to the same ideology that I was trying to imply of relational and time.
Healthcare.
And healthcare right now is really not in a place where we are allowing ourselves time.
Mm-hmm.
The system has to completely change where a practitioner can now practice the way they wanted to practice, where I can spend 45 minutes with my client and not have to worry about like my bills being paid or being reimbursed or having to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue. The biggest issue is that we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know our clients. We don't know.
So you don't know what to look for.
We don't know what to look for. We don't have enough time to do the history and physical. We're taught in medical school that you should get the differential diagnosis by two simple ways, history and physical.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is helped to support your differential. Does that make sense? But we don't have time for that.
Yep.
We don't have enough time where we are actually understanding the dynamic of this person that's standing in front of
I think the other thing is like, what is her normal?
Correct.
So a lot of times you hear of the maternal deaths that happen postpartum.
Right.
That, you know, a patient's family says like, we were trying to say that there was an issue.
Yes.
But it wasn't being listened to. And I think that does come back to that trust in the patient, but also the knowing the patient well enough to take that concern seriously.
When you're doing 40 people a day,
when do you have time?
When do you have time? You have that 10 minutes. You don't. When I work with people, my doctors that take insurance, and my clients that are in the system, you know, I'll be like, oh my God, we have a birth coming up, and they're like, Lacey. Oh yeah. Like they don't even like. It's a number. Yeah. They're not even, you know. So it's like they're not treated like, like there's this person that has a history that's like.
One of the jokes that I say to my clients is like, I want to be dreaming about you. By the time we're done, it's gonna feel like a bad breakup. Do you know? And that is traditionally back in the days when you had those doctors of the village, right? I call them the village doctors.
Yep.
They knew each other by name.
Yep.
They knew each other by name, not by diseases. Right now, a doctor will know their patients by diseases, not by something special about them.
I loved when I met you. I remember our client was like, "Hi, doctor," and she's like, "My name's Phabby.
Yeah.
Just call me Phabby."
Yeah,
I know. Even in introing you, I'm like, do we call you you always want to be introduced as Phabillia or Phabby, not doctor?
Yes, because Phabillia has all my identities.
Yeah.
It does not have doctor. Then you only have the doctor.
Yeah.
And
I
she
want
sits
you
on
to
the
have
floor
everything. Yeah.
and doesn't it's just a different thing.
Yeah.
It's just.
I want to end on one more question, which is, what gives each of you hope about the future of birthing or for care for mothers?
Well, right now, this.
Mhm.
Because you're bringing things to awareness. The more we are aware of what the possibilities, what changes can happen, the more it's in slow progression. So if you keep doing these, asking the questions, doing podcasts, making people aware of the options that they have, that's what gives me hope. Because I cannot be the only one.
Yeah.
I know there's somebody out there that is probably better than me, and we just haven't found them,
I don't know if that's true, but I hope that there are more of you out there.
I feel really proud of the care that I give and the work that Phabby and I do together and the people that I work with, that we're giving these babies and these mothers and families a solid foundation where they have a healthy start in life. And because I got this download one time that basically, that these babies that are coming in right now are going to be facing storms in their life that we've never seen, and that they need to come in rooted and solid. And I feel that if more people could work the way that Phabby and I work, in collaboration, and really in such passion and purpose, to make the world a better place, starting, peace on earth does start with birth, if not before. It gives me hope to I'm mentoring a lot of doulas. I'm trying to I feel like, however I can speak or do or whatever, write, post, anything that inspires people and empowers people to,
I really agree with that. I think that's, it needed. I think we think a lot about the ability to impact intergenerational health.
Right.
And how critical this time period. Some people think of pregnancy, it's 9 months, it's a short time in your life. It's actually a critical period to impact the health of a mother, the family, the baby's health throughout their life. And, through some of that work, you can heal past generations as well. You can have those conversations with your mother or grandmother and really make a positive ripple effect.
Right.
That is so much bigger than just that one pregnancy.
We have so many mothers come to the births, especially when we do them at home, that have been traumatized, and they just sit there and they're like, it resets them. It resets, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know it could be like this.
Right.
I feel reborn myself. It's just, because it's now they have a different imprint in them.
That's incredible.
That's why I love the imprinting.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great little, window into your world, and appreciate the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.